In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, said someone tragically naive and gullible who didn't think this through. That was my first thought when I heard this quote. Wouldn't it make more sense to say that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man will try to explain colors to everyone and no one would believe anything, and then the one-eyed man would be eaten, killed and banished? It doesn't really flow from the tongue as fluently. But it would still kind of require an ideal blind kingdom, as silly as that sounds, where no one has a reason to lie or doubt. But during that world's progress, no one would claim that voice in movies is a temporary phase. They would just ask, why did these things exist before this? Why didn't someone invent a radio? What a stupid kingdom. This all ties into something. You all know that Plato's cave thing, that shadows on the wall, that then someone sees outside and tells them, and fuck that guy, we like our shadows, this blasphemer shall be exiled to that place that doesn't exist. One most literal interpretation was, I think, a Philip K. Dick short story where people have lived in a giant spaceship so long that they'd forgotten it was a spaceship. Then someone tells about a window they found and then gets burned as a heretic. Most memorable version has to be Cricket, in Douglas Adams's Life, the Universe and Everything. A planet covered in dust cloud realizes that the rest of the universe exists. They find this unacceptable and start a war to erase all of the rest of the universe. This goes as well as one would expect. In a scale of from Strömsö's blooper reel to death to all of Galaxy's puppies, it's somewhere in the ballpark of no one will be happy ever again ever. So that opening line can be interpreted as an ideological opposite of Plato's cave, even if it was first coined by a Catholic who defended the Pope. But what about a literal opposite? Instead of fighting oppression, belief systems, or ignorance and stupidity, what if your world was that cave? Everyone you know, everything you know, is in that cave. Everyone else also wants to know what's on the outside. But there is no hole in the wall. All you have is a plastic spoon, some glimmer on the wall, and an endless amount of determination of upgrading that spoon. So that maybe, if it's not you, maybe your great-great-grandchildren might get finally to find out what lies beyond the Onyxian confinement. So this seems like a fine starting point for Stanislav Lem's short story. Short meaning time to shove the whole history of the civilization from this point to an interstellar omnipresence into about 30 pages. And by Stanislav Lem's story, I mean like those in Siberia, where someone built a machine that can create everything that starts with the letter D, or a calculator that can divide by 0. This is a great setup for Cixin Liu. Even if he often presents himself as a hard science fiction writer, he's most interesting when he solves every barricade of contradicting logic with a huge pile of fuck it to build his bridges. Remember the end chapter of The Three-Body Problem? Yeah, that sort. As the story begins, it walks towards a cohesive message like a family of drunken ducks. As it really wants to pretend it's about something, it's laughably great. Aliens arrive to orbit Earth with a ship so huge that its gravity pulls an ocean to form a mountain between itself and Earth. We follow this from a ship near the equator that's left right next to this mountain. As I now read it again, I realized how fast everything happened. That star is new. That star is bigger. That star is a spaceship. That thing has a gravity that will cleanse Earth of its atmosphere in a week. Cape Canaveral is being bombarded by people searching for liquid oxygen because they want to breathe after that week. It's all over. Humanity has fallen into savagery. These sailors I'm quoting aren't on a military vessel. They're like fishermen or something. But all this info comes to 10 in about 5 minutes. This is how world works when it's only there to advance the plot. Liu himself has admitted that he doesn't really care about his characters. They are there to advance the story, the Arthur C. Clarke/Asimovian way. So one guy, Feng, starts to sail up this mountain. He has like silly obsession to it and accidentally killed 4 people while climbing Everest himself. Dark Forest had a fine protagonist that becomes sympathetic by doing something stupid and then getting punished by it way too much. This was written earlier, and Liu doesn't yet know the subtleties of this method. In here, it's closer to I stepped on a cat and everyone saw it on YouTube and started hating me. Now I punish myself by sleeping in this ship with a tiger that eats a piece of me every night. So that's my punishment that I myself chose. It's not Sisyphean. It's peeing into a sink in a glass house. So this guy sails and swims until he reaches the top of the top that's higher than Everest. Gravity works in a funny way, so he manages to swim half of the journey. When on top, the aliens open a giant screen for him so he can select a language to communicate with. Then he floats there and the aliens tell him about their entire history. By using this giant screen, I guess. That's how interstellar masters of the universe are deep down. Like your annoying grandparents who just returned from a long holiday that they spent in an unlit coal mine. Of course, there's a deeper reason to all of this. I'll get there soon. Hello, human. We speak Chinese because science wanna talk. Okay, cool. So we came from the bubble world. This meaning an Earth-sized planet, but they evolved in its hollow core. No gravity, no gases, no liquids, and no reason to assume that outside the bubble there would be anything else than more rock. This they called the solid universe theory. They still called it a bubble work, though. This kind of makes me feel I don't know how languages work. Don't you kind of need an outside perspective to call your world the bubble world? Like, hello, we're Japanese people. We first invented fishing, then farming, then a microchip, so we started from a water world to a rice world, and now a hentai world. Isn't that easy, my only child named the ugly one? So how did these beings evolve in this barren vacuum? We are mechanical life forms. Our muscles and bones are made of metal. Our brains are like highly integrated chips, and electricity and magnetism are our blood. We ate radioactive rocks at our world's core. We were not created. Instead, we evolved from a single-shelled mechanical life. If your brain tries to escape now, don't be alarmed. Tell it to come back. It's trying to give fucks that Liu isn't giving. This has to be the best example of throwing your hands in the air and running naked around the wall that flashes with the message stating error logic dead. How would they survive? Don't know really. Magnets? Sure. Next. You might expect the situation to intensify and explode. The planet just went mental in minutes. How will humanity react to these extraterrestrial visitors? Nothing. Seriously. Now the rest will happen in Waiting for Godot universe, where a planet-sized Chekhov's gun just fell asleep. Feng and the alien ship won't be disturbed at any point. Considering the speed humanity lost its shit a while ago, I can only assume that now there is already a thunderdome in the desert on the other side of the planet and they worship the alien ship as a god. So these mechanoids drill into the planet's core. They find out that it's less dense when they go further. Might there be no rocks at some point? The space they have in their bubble is finite. When they send an exploration machine from the center, they have to put rocks back on their place after every step they take, otherwise they might run out of space. This turns delightfully crazy as they go through wars inside solid mantle, with ships like giant worms that move with incredible slowness. Everything is slow. I think the history of them took like 100,000 years to reach the surface. Let's call our first pioneer Newton, the aliens say. This guy was called Copernicus to make this easier. This guy was going to be executed, but then things got muddled and the sentence vanished somewhere. Let's call him our space OJ. When the Babylonians reach the planet's surface, they first break the seafloor. In their zero atmosphere, the water boils and kills everyone by short-circuiting. Send more people. They died. Let's send more. They died again. They are terrible at this. It's like an army met a pond and without really considering of going around it, they drown so many soldiers that the pond disappears and they can walk over it. So they reach the surface and decide to travel across the universe to see if it's a bubble or something. It didn't make that much sense, but it was nice of them to stop by and tell this story because they wanted to see if there was intelligent life and wanted to have a chat with whoever first climbs this mountain. And then they babble about the universality of mountains and the intelligent life's desire to climb them. Of course, this would all seem a bit silly if anyone else came up there with a water jet, which is something hundreds of people would do, but don't. So this all could have been done by putting one guy atop of Everest. But you just had to park your moon-sized Death Star next to us, while you claim that you're in a hurry to your next logical destination. Maybe a quarter of the world's population has drowned by now, but whatevs. Nature of intelligent life is to climb mountains and gaze into the distance. And this is why we now have their respect. Mountain, in the broader sense, of course, is a metaphor for all exploration there is. And these things know everything about us because of their science. They bestow this honor to us while knowing we went to the moon and back half a century ago for propaganda reasons and have since tried to perfect a mouse pad with boobs. That is not achieved yet. Mine broke. Then the aliens leave. Nice chat, bye. The only person who heard all this falls back to Earth with the ocean and might not make it alive. So none of this had reason to happen. All these stupid things, I'll forgive this story. Dumb things happened, so it can be told. There is no twist on a last second that needs a plot contrivance. Only thing where it feels forced is when it tries to be about something. Since the bubble world's history takes so long and we hear nothing about it except that it's not really a story about more than just that. I had to connect this review to Plato just to pretend it's about something. There was a 2-sentence Kilgore Trout story called Money Tree. It went as follows. Its leaves were $20 bills. People killed each other around its roots and were a fine fertilizer. That was about more than mountain. But mountain doesn't need to be about anything. And I love it in all its insanity. You can find it in Liu's short story collection, The Wandering Earth. I recommend it as follows. Since the story itself tends to use excessive large numbers, I'll give it 5 trillion stars out of 3.